Good evening, everybody. It's Monday, March 22nd, about 7:32 p.m., and this is the Roseville Township Board of Trustees business. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. Next, we have additions and deletions. Who do I have out there? Do we have any additions?
Mr. Supervisor.
Yes, Mr. Needy.
I'd like to add consent agenda number 7, which is approval to pay bills through April 2nd, 2021.
Support? Any discussion on that?
Second.
Plenty of seconds on that, so I assume we don't have it. Do we have any discussion?
I could just add that the reason for that is to get the bills paid through the end of the fiscal year.
All right. I guess we want to do that. All right. With hearing nothing else, do a roll call vote. Start with Ms. O'Connor.
I vote aye.
Okay, and Mr. Bletcher?
Aye.
Mr. Porcerelli?
Aye.
Mr. Jarecki?
Aye.
Mr. Nadeau?
Aye.
Mr. Yeager?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Thank you very much. I have an addition also. Like to add a closed session tonight to discuss the attorney opinion on our healthcare issue.
Support.
You know, we've been through this. We have more information on it, and I'd like to go into closed session to discuss that.
Support.
No, we had the support. No discussion? Again, roll call vote. Mr. Bletcher.
Aye.
Ms. O'Connor.
Aye.
Mr. Porcerelli.
Aye.
Mr. Jarecki.
Aye.
Mr. Yeager.
Aye.
Mr. Nadeau.
Aye.
And I vote aye also. So we've added 2. Mr. Bletcher, do we have a deletion that you might want to let us in on?
That is correct. Mr. Supervisor, I would like to delete consent agenda item number 5, the Ralph Wilson Trail Maintenance Grant.
Support? You want to get, anybody have any questions on that? Hearing none. Mr. Porcerelli.
Aye.
Mr. Jarecki.
Aye.
Mr. Nadeau.
Aye.
Mr. Yeager.
Aye.
Mr. Bletcher.
Aye.
Ms. O'Connor.
Aye.
And I also vote aye. Okay. So now we need approval of the approval of the agenda as amended. Yes, Mr. Bletcher.
Point of order. I believe that we're required to identify where we are during the course of this Zoom meeting.
You're at, well, yeah, I mean, that's one of the requirements. You're right. I forgot that. Thank you, Mr. Bletcher. So I will go around the room and see where everybody's at. Ms. O'Connor.
I am in my kitchen on Island Boulevard in
TMI. Thank you, Uda. Mr. Bletcher.
Carl Bletcher, residence, Groseal, Michigan.
Mr. Porcerelli.
Trustee Porcerelli, Groseal, Michigan.
Mr. Jarecki.
Mike Jarecki, Groseal, Michigan.
Mr. Nadeau.
Present in Groseal Township, Michigan.
And Mr. Yeager.
I am also present in Groseal Township, Michigan.
Thank you, as am I. Groseal Township. All right, thanks for bringing that up, Carl. I did forget that. Now, I'd like a vote for approval of the amended agenda.
Motion.
Motion to approve the amended agenda.
Support.
Thank you. Mr. Jarecki.
Aye.
Mr. Nadeau.
Aye.
Mr. Yeager.
Aye.
I vote aye. Ms. O'Connor.
Aye.
And Mr. Bletcher.
Aye.
And Mr. Porcerelli.
Aye.
And that passes. So our amended agenda, which deleted one item and added two, is approved. Okay. With that, you have no presentations, public comment on any item. And I don't know.
Let's see, Judy, do you have any public comments since you're the only
There, yeah, I'm trying to
only
find.
public we have in the meeting at the moment? So
I do, yes. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Judy.
I have a couple of things. First of all, thank you for letting us use the township parking lot for the pickup day for the sock drive that we held through the Groseal Citizens for Justice and Change. We supported Crossroads of Detroit, who has been in business for 50 years, serving the underserved in Detroit. And we were able to gather 640 pairs of socks over the 2 weeks that we had them from Groseal residents. So thank you very much. Thank you to everybody who donated. This was our first year. We'll be doing it again next year, probably earlier in the season. It was kind of a late thing, but they definitely need socks all year round. It's the most needed, least donated thing that they get. So thank you to everybody. The same group, the Groseal Citizens for Justice and Change, held a solemn candlelight vigil last night from 7:30 to 8 at the Commons. Thank you also for that, allowing us to use that property. It was about 25 people attended. It was a very peaceful, solemn event, and we were glad to see community support, and we received letters of appreciation from community members on that. I would also encourage residents to contact Mike Shirkey of the Michigan Senate leader for the State Senate for Michigan. Groseal is supposed to get between $750,000 to $1 million from the recent rescue plan. They still have all of our money from the first plan that they've had since December that they haven't released because they're quibbling like children in Lansing and trying to play some sort of politics to make the governor look bad or something. But whatever the reason is, they're doing it. I'm sure that the township would appreciate the money, and I'm sure that there's lots of cities who are waiting for the money. There's lots of things that we could do and plans that we could make if we had the money that was duly supposed to be coming to us, if they could just get it together. So call Mike Shirkey and ask him what the holdup is. His number is online. He's the head of the Michigan Senate. And lastly, I hope tonight you address the COVID vaccine clinic coming to Groseal soon, I hope.
Yeah, well, Judy, as a matter of fact, I'm going to, both your items that you just talked about, you have a little bit of misinformation on the first one, and I will be addressing the COVID clinic also.
Awesome. Well, that was from Darren Camilleri, gave that number in a presentation that he gave, and the News Herald article backed it up with a similar to close number on the amount that Groseal was supposed to get. I know that those were estimates, but even if it's off by, a couple $100,000, it'd be amazing. I'm sure it's a gift.
Oh, we're going to get some money.
Right.
We're going to get some money. So, but I'll say a few words about that during my report.
Awesome.
Thank you
all.
Judy.
Thank you.
And that's the only member of the public we have.
All right. So moving right along, consent agenda. Mr. Nadeau.
Thank you, Mr. Budney. I'd like to make a motion to approve consent agenda 20-080, which includes the minutes of the March 8th regular meeting of the Board of Trustees, check registers dated through March 19th of 2021, the appointment of committee and commission chairpersons for fiscal year 2021 to 22, the reappointment of township committee commission members for fiscal year 2021 to 2022, an appointment to the Downtown Development Authority, and approval to pay bills through April 2nd, 2021.
Report.
Support.
Any discussion? Not hearing any. We have a motion to approve agenda 20-080 containing the minutes of the March 8th regular meeting, check register dated March 19th, 2021, the appointment of committee commission chairpersons for fiscal year 2021-22, the reappointment of township committee commission members for fiscal year 2021-22, the appointment of a downtown development to the Downtown Development Authority, and approval of to pay bills through April 2nd, 2021. With that, yes, Ms. O'Connor.
Just a quick question. After we approve this, will Margie be reaching out to the reappointed commissioners and commission chairs with a letter? Or will we be publishing this on the website for the people who...
Yeah, she will be updating the list. If they've expired, they should, the chairpersons, every commission should know their chairperson, they voted on it. And that's what came forward to us. As far as the other ones, she should be sending a letter out telling them that they're reappointed.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. With that, voting, Mr. Jarecki.
Yes.
Mr. Nadeau.
Aye.
Mr. Yeager.
Aye.
Ms. O'Connor.
Aye.
Mr. Porcerelli.
Aye.
Mr. Fletcher.
Aye.
And I vote aye. So the consent agenda passes. Thank you. All right. And with that, we have going to our action items. And Carl, you have the pleasure of action item number 1.
Thank you. I move, based upon a recommendation from the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee, Groseal Township Board approved purchase from Ralph's Lawn Equipment for a Husqvarna Z560X mower at a cost not to exceed $8,925.
Support.
Okay, Carl, give us a little background.
And background in this is the existing mower utilized for bike path mowing has exceeded its useful life. For the past 2 budget cycles, a replacement mower has been budgeted and the purchase is past due. Because the mower is used in the Downtown Development Authority as well, a portion of the purchase price is being funded by the DDA, that is 10%. Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory had reviewed multiple options for the purchase of a new mower. The state bid was reviewed for the purchase of the preferred type and size of the mower, a John Deere brand. The recommended purchase is from a local vendor who is capable of providing support for the unit without having to take the unit off island for repairs. The cost for the unit is lower than the state bid unit, and the unit size capabilities are the same. The mower spec is a John Deere Z950M 27 horsepower with a Kawasaki motor, a 60-inch 7-gauge mowing deck, $10,660.26. That's the state package. The Husqvarna to be supplied by Ralph's Lawn Equipment is the model Z560X. Again, a 27 horsepower Kawasaki motor, also with a 60-inch 7-gauge deck, but for the lesser price of $8,925.
Questions? Anybody? Hearing none, we have a motion based upon the recommendation of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. The Groseal Township Board approve a purchase from Ralph's Lawn Equipment for a Husqvarna Z56X mower at the cost not to exceed $8,925. Mr. Nadu.
Aye.
Mr. Yeager.
Aye.
Ms. O'Connor.
Aye.
Mr. Bletcher.
Aye.
I vote aye also. Mr. Porcerelli.
Aye.
And Mr. Jarecki.
Aye.
Thank you, board. BPAC, I would add to that, and some people don't understand this, that BPAC basically pays for that mower, even though they don't do any mowing themselves, they pay for the mower. So it's nice to see DDA pitch in there. Very good. All right. The next one. Thank goodness this only comes once a year. I have a motion for the Township Board to adopt the fiscal year ending 2022 combined township budget effective April 1st, 2021 through March 31st, 2022.
Support.
And I'm going to let Ann run through her presentation of this. The only thing that I have to say about it is we had a lot of hurdles to go through this year due to COVID. Very appreciative of our department heads. We were able to come out with a budget where all the departments, except for two, and including the general fund, didn't have to go into prior year's earnings to balance their budget. So we only had two departments that needed to do that. And one of the departments, DPS, will be doing a lot of capital improvements, and that's what they had to go in for their operation. They did not have to go in for anything on the operation. So I'm very pleased with all of the people at the township for doing a good job getting their budgets together. And Ann, I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Good evening. Obviously, we're not going to go over the whole budget. We're going to do broad pictures and basically teach the public of how our budget is developed. So we're going to do more development things of how we get the numbers for the budget to come together and how. And
if I may interrupt you for 1 minute, just for those people out there, and there don't appear to be many, if you didn't know, we did have a study session on this earlier in the month where we went through all the departments. Everybody on the board was available to look at it, ask questions, and that was about 10 days ago or so. So there was plenty of time for them to get to us to ask questions. So nothing's been rushed on this. Sorry, Ann. Go ahead.
That's okay. Yep, it was all looked at. So like I said, at this point, we're just going to give a broad picture of how how it was developed. So again, when we do a budget, our budgets always start off with taxable value times our millages. That basically is how our budget gets created and started. So if we look at the taxable value, if you realize the drastic from 2008, so we were at a high of $680 million of taxable value, and that's basically how much the township is worth, all the property on the township is worth. If we look what happened when we had that big downturn, so in 4 years, we lost about 19% of our revenue. And it is finally starting to come back slowly, but the percent that it could come back is subject to rate of inflation. So we dropped so quickly in those 4 years, and it's taking so long to get back up. And if you really think about it, we are operating at 2009 revenues. That's what we're operating at. So it was at 2009, we were at 654, we're estimated at 657. So that is our starting point for developing a lot of our budgets. If we look at total township millages, these are the total township millages for everything from rec to police, from fire equipment, as well as our debt schedules. So if you look at if you can see what operating are we really charging residents, not only that our taxable value is lower, our millage rates are lower as well. So when people say, oh, we're raising taxes, but that is not the truth. If you take your tax bill from 2009 or even 2013 and compare it to now, you can see your taxable value. So actually, in the last year, we lowered it because we took off some debt. So a little bit of 0.5 mils of our debt has fallen off, and we do not charge the residents what we don't need. So we don't need it, so we didn't assess it. So that's for our bond payment. So as you look at the last couple of years, it actually has declined a little bit. And if I do it, what our debt portion is and what our operating portion is, you can see the operation stays very, very, very similar from year to year. And we did drop the debt. So that causes the decline in the millage rate. Also, this is based on people. So we are 90% service orientated, and just so we know, we aren't currently paying for current people working. We are also paying for retirees. And if you look at the complement, we have for healthcare, we have 65 current that we are paying for, and we have 45 retired. So you can see that balance is almost getting equal from what we're paying for the retirees as well as the current, so 110. And on our MERS system, it's actually flip-flopped. We actually have 47 current employees and 55 retired. So that is those terms for those long unfunded liabilities, because we are actually paying for more retiree people in some cases than we are for the current employed. Then we want to look at the, oops, that was too quick. And then we want to look at, we said that salaries are a part of it because, like I said, we are 90% people. We are service orientated. When we develop the budget, we also take into account wage increases. There's three different. We have a police union, administrative union, and we also have non-union, which are the management. And what I do is take a 20-year average. If we look at what was given to the employees, the POM was 1.95, union was 1.99, and 1.81. The average index for consumer price index was 1.7. So basically, the employees are keeping up with inflation over the last 20 years. Now we look at total cost, because obviously, again, employees are the major part of our budgets when we develop the budget. So if we look for since 2016 to 2020, the total gross wages for 47 full-time and people is a little under 3.5 million. So that's basically kind of stayed equivalent. It has gone up a little bit in the last couple of years, but these wages include buyouts, and it includes everything that, whether it includes part-time people, full-time people, everything. So these are total wages. The next one in the yellow is healthcare. So we were at the point where healthcare was raising, and what we did in the last year, since 2019, we actually revamped our healthcare, and the employee is now absorbing the additional increases. So actually, we are now stabling out the way we handle healthcare, it's raising at about 3%, which is what the hard cap is based on by the state of Michigan. So we're following that hard cap, and now we have stabilized our healthcare costs, because whatever it goes up more than 3%, the employee will have to eat the difference. So you can see that. And finally, the blue one is the MERS. The MERS, we have been watching this. The MERS has been increasing. It's due to change in assumptions, and it's due to unfunded liability being amortized over 30 years, which it has in the past, and we are down now to 19 years. So they have shrunk the period for amortization, which again is going to increase our cost to the township. So you can see that that is inflating in the last couple of years. So that is because of the amortization period, and I said the assumptions that they're constantly changing. If we want to look at our long-term debt, if you look at government activities, it's really amazing that the township truly doesn't have that much debt out there. We have, just for the recreation department, they just borrowed $75,000 to do the marina, and we have the building authority, which consists of the township hall that we're sitting in and the Water's Edge facility. And that's at about $900,000. Those will start to come off in 2025. So those, we are hitting our end. The other business type activities, these are the major capital intense funds. We do have the tax sewer system, the 7 million, and the judgment bond 3 million. So there's about $10 million right there that is currently being paid with a millage on the tax bill. And then the 15 million is water and sewer lines that are being paid through rates at the DPW. And then recently, the airport has gone through some major capital improvements, and this is the outstanding that they have currently. So these are both enterprise funds. This is based on water rates, and the airport is based on rents. So we actually have about $28 million outstanding, and the average principal and interest is about $4.6 million through all the budgets. Now we're going to kind of hit general fund. If we look at general fund, the budget currently, we are, as Jim said, we are presenting a balanced budget for general fund. General fund is our discretionary fund. It's the majority of it is consists of property taxes. And the other revenue that we get is state share revenue, which is our big amount, which is basically used to operate administration, about $945,000. And then this licenses permit is another one, and that is the building department. The building department operates off their own revenues. We look at the general fund millages from year to year. Again, we could see that the police make up the biggest portion of it. So their fringes, wages, and benefits take up 88% of all millages collected, whether it be our allocated general fund and the 3 voted police millages. So obviously they make up the biggest portion of the budget. Their total budget takes up about 97% of our taxes. The rest we live on state shared revenue and those building department fees that I showed you. Now we're going to look at the expense side. Again, here's our expenses, little over $6 million, because we did a balanced budget without going into prior year resources. Again, you can see that police department make up 61% of that. But all these are other administrative offices that we also have in there that help support the township. So we have the treasurer's office, clerk's office, administration, which is professional services, as well as the manager's office, supervisor, township board, community development, communications, community development, and the finance department. So those help to make up the general fund. If we look at general fund overall financially, from 2013, you can see that the general fund, we go revenues, expenditures, and fund balance. So our revenues are increasing slightly, as we showed in the graph before. Our expenditures are increasing slightly, as we said, but Actually, our fund balance at 2020, well, 2020 was our last fiscal year that has been completed. Our fund balance is a little over $2 million. It's let me get my little thing out, probably on the next slide, but so we are sitting at about $2.4 million of fund balance, which is basically our cash in the bank for that rainy day. As we can see in the past, it has come in handy. So we are sitting at a fund balance of about 40% of our expenditures. Our industry for municipal government doesn't like that fund balance to get any lower than 25%. So we are financially conservative, and we are financially in a good positive light with as far as our bond rating and what we have in the bank. So again, we're just looking at the financial general fund. If you look over the last several years, we are pretty much breaking even. In 2018, we were a little up. 2019, 2020. That's currently where we're at, and that's why when we say when we can budget that zero balance budget, that's about where we're at. I foresee our fiscal year 2021, the ones that we're ending in a couple of days, to come in a positive light as well. So that is excellent considering the COVID situation and how some revenues have been down, but then we weren't spending money either that we didn't have to. So it kind of worked out an advantage. Finally, if you look at the 20-year average of our general fund history, in the past 20 years, our average general fund budget has increased by 1.3%, which is totally amazing compared to really cost of inflation. So we have made adjustments. We have done adjustments where we could. We haven't replaced positions where we could. So it doesn't happen just for, there was some planning and to make it all work. So when there was an opportunity to make changes, we did make those changes. That record's pretty good. I don't know if I haven't compared it to everyone else's communities downriver, but I can't imagine that they would be in that situation. So again, the budget being presented, as I said before, we take the numbers very seriously. We have a lot of the numbers are pretty standard. If you look at our budget against actual, we're not setting out a pretty picture that doesn't come to fruition. It is pretty darn close when we're doing these budgets. We know where we're at. So we use it as a tool. We don't adjust our budget all the time. It truly is a working tool. And like I said, at the end of the day, it's pretty darn dead nuts on where we're going to end up at the end of the year. So other than that, that's pretty much my presentation. Again, I just want to thank everybody for all that went into it. I do have bound budgets downstairs. If anyone's interested, they're welcome to call or give me a call, and we'll meet them at the door and we'll get them a budget. And then after a while, we have just a computer printout on the website available as well. So if there's any questions.
All right. Thank you, Ann. Anybody have any questions for Ann?
Thank you, Ann.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Ann, could you take your shared screen off?
Sure. Yep. Let me see.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay.
Without any questions? Without any questions. You have a motion before the board to adopt the fiscal year ending 2020.
It looks like Mr. Jarecki has a question.
I just have one question, Jim. It's
yes,
more
sir.
of
a
statement. I know that the police department took kind of a cut and a cost that in the private sector would be referred to as controllable costs. And as long as, per our discussion, we have flexibility to achieve that amongst the other line items, then I'm certainly okay. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, Mike, and Mike, yes, you do have the flexibility.
Okay, good.
Mr. Supervisor?
Yes, sir, Joe.
Comment, please?
Yes.
I know that there was a core group from the township that worked on this, from the township board, and I just want to thank that group and also the managers, obviously. Coming from the police chief side and now a trustee, obviously being a fiduciary of the entire township as opposed to just my budget at the police department, I recall numerous years that they had to go into the bank account to balance the budget. But I just want to thank that core group that worked very hard. I know you worked a lot of hours on this. And again, the managers that obviously have to bring that budget to the core group and working together to make this budget work without going into the bank account. That's a big issue. I'm not sure how, if the people grows, you'll know how big that really is. If that can continue, that'd be great. So thank you very much for all your work on it, that core group, and to the managers.
Thanks, Joe, for those comments. And yeah, I mean, that certainly, that is one thing that I've always been on since I've been on the board is the finances. And on the other hand, with the new group, including myself in a new position this year coming into this in November, I certainly didn't want to make a lot of changes just for the sake of change. I don't believe in doing that, especially with something as important as this. You need time to know what you're doing. However, I did set out 2 or 3 things that I wanted to see, and by and large, most of the departments came through, and we end up with the budget that we have, which is pretty darn close to being balanced all the way around. So I was very pleased with that. And as we go forward and study this, we probably will make more changes, but you got to do things in the right time. You can't rush into them. And certainly it's something that will be discussed with everybody. Nothing's going to be forced on anybody without them understanding what's being done. That's the way we are going to operate, and I think it'll work out for all of us.
Thank you to all of you.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. Yes, Ms. O'Connor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I appreciate your comments and Joe's and Jim's, and at the same time, we always know the budget is a flexible object, and I think the big word going through the pandemic has been pivoting. And I'd like to congratulate our staff always. I think in the last, I would say maybe 12 or 13 years that we've been kind of right-sizing or downsizing the staffing, our managers and administrators have always been very good at pivoting, at finding the resources they need to get the things done that need to be done in such a way that we're always being mindful of the budget and the taxpayers. So I know that, Ann, you're nodding. It's been a lot of work over the years, and it does pay off this way. But we also know that if the situation changes, we've got a budget that we can work with, and we've set out our goals. And I'd like to congratulate this new board on getting this done.
Thank you, Ms. O'Connor. Anyone else? Not hearing or seeing any hands. The motion is for the board to adopt the fiscal year ending 2022 combined township budget effective April 1st, 2021 through March 31st, 2022. And I will start with Mr. Yeager.
Aye.
Mr. Porcarelli.
Aye.
Is that Joe or Mike?
No, that was me.
Oh, aye. Okay. Mike?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Mr. Bletcher?
Aye.
Ms. O'Connor?
Aye.
And I vote aye also. I think we got everybody. And the budget passes. And that is a good point that it is something that has to be flexible. You don't want to paint yourself into a corner. And hopefully we will have some money coming down the line. All right. Okay, Joe, you have the next action item.
I move based upon the recommendation of the Airport Commerce Park Commission to approve a one-time bonus for airport manager in the amount of $7,000.
Support?
Thank you. Discussion? Joe, you want to give us?
Yes, I'm on that.
On that?
Yes. The Airport Commerce Park Commission worked with the airport manager on setting goals to create additional revenue streams for the department. Due to the recent addition of new tenants, Pirates Cove, $2.8 million for 30 years, Island Athletics, $180,000 3 years, and Building 63, I'm not sure this is correct, it says $149 a year. That number's got to be higher. The recommendation of a bonus was made by the commission for the manager's efforts.
Okay. Any other statement? Anybody?
If I can lead?
Yes, you can, sir.
Okay. I know Mike has done an excellent job in the last few years bringing in revenue, and that's his job to do. And the main goal, and Mr. Rathel and I even talked about it, the main goal is definitely that the airport as an enterprise zone or system, they bring in their revenues and pay for everything themselves. And our goal is not to have any of the tax dollars obviously go towards the running of the airport. And the airport has done that in the last few years, and especially now bringing in these new leases, and also with, and I believe Building 39 was the tennis center.
Right.
I'm sorry?
That's correct.
Oh, okay. That they have a private individual in there that's supporting it with some of the funds from the airport Commerce Park, but all in all, I think he's done an excellent job. And what we've done is we did speak about this, some of the board members, and some of the other board members have also spoke to them. So what came out of this is what we believe to be appropriate was a $4,500 one-time bonus. And for the people to know, it doesn't go to the final average compensation. It doesn't have any issue on pension liability. It won't go towards anything else due to the fact it's a one-time bonus coming from the airport's revenues.
Budget.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, from the airport's budget.
Yeah, from the airport's budget, which they make their own revenues, not from the tax dollars. So I just want to make sure that is clear on that for the people to know where the money comes from, what it's for, and where it's from.
Okay. Other comments? Ms. O'Connor.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Joe, I got a little confused. The motion you made said $7,000 and you just said $4,500.
That's correct. I was advised to keep the motion the same. Then we would all talk about it. And in speaking with some of the other board members, and they stated they have spoke to some also of the board members that they believe that $4,500 was appropriate, and that's where I'm going with this now. So the final recommendation that Jim would be speaking of at the end would be for $4,500, Uta.
Okay, so we should probably change the motion.
We'll need we need a friendly amendment to change the dollar amount. Brian?
You need me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you guys just need to. I mean, you guys just need to make that amendment.
Yeah, Joe might.
That's what I'm asking. We need a friendly
amendment.
I
was just advised to read the original one.
Yeah.
Do I make the amendment, Jim?
Yeah, you can make a friendly amendment.
Okay, I'd like to make a friend. Oh, I'm
make
sorry.
sure we do this correct, Brian.
You're right.
I would like to do a friendly amendment to the original recommendation.
Oh, Joe, if you can just hold on. Uta has a.
No,
I'm sorry.
Fine. But again, you would, since you're the one making the motion, you could have made the original motion for the $4,500 if that was intent.
Okay, yeah, and Uta, the request was made. I believe airport wanted to see the commission's what the commission voted on as a majority. They wanted to see it this way, and I know it's a little more cumbersome, but But I have no I had no problem with doing it this way, even though we have to go back now and amend it, just so we got out there what the commission wanted.
So, so just before you read it again, Joe, since the total is changing, anytime a group gives this kind of a bonus, a one-time bonus, I believe that part of the goal is, of course, retention of the person you're giving the bonus to. If you're basically cutting it in half, do you think this will present a problem in terms of retaining the talent that we want to keep at the airport?
Uta, I apologize. I did not hear. Did you say retaining the individual? In other words, will the individual stay? Is that what you're asking?
Usually employers will reward an employee with a bonus that doesn't go to the bottom line of their salary, but it's usually in an effort to, give an attaboy, but also to help retain that employee without giving them a salary increase, keeping them happy to be working at that employer. And so since the number has been reduced, do you think this lower amount will still meet that goal, that you want to incentivize keeping a certain manager on board?
Well, I would hope so. And here's the situation. We just went through a budget issue. We had to balance the budget. We had to cut the budget. And we have how many, 7, 8 other managers out there that have gotten zero this year. They're not even getting a cost of living increase. It was zeros all across the board. And Ann, please correct me if I'm wrong at all on this, but there's no market adjustments and there's zero COLA adjustment. Is that correct? I just want to make sure.
For administration, yes.
Yes, that's what I meant. Not contractual issues.
Yep.
Yes. So Uta, I would say yes. When in the past, when we see the history of bonuses that have been given out at Grosse Ile Township, and just bonuses, not what we did with raises in the past, and say the last 10 years, I believe that is fair, and I don't want to use the word adequate, but I don't think, and I hope it doesn't have a problem with retaining this individual. Then I have another issue to deal with.
Well, it just sounded from what Jim said that the commission wanted to keep the original amount in play, and that it was from the discussions with the board that the new total came in.
Right.
So
well, that's just what
wanted to make sure we were living up to expectations.
That's what I was advised, that just to keep the recommendation based upon the Airport Commerce Park Commission the same, and that we would talk about it. So that's the reason I read it. If I did that incorrectly, I apologize.
No, it wasn't incorrect. Not incorrect.
You did fine, Joe.
Yeah,
I just think that I don't think there will be a problem. I hope there won't be a problem. And again, I said then that brings up another problem. So we can talk about it, or if others have a comment on it. I mean, it's not just me.
Yeah.
Anybody else have a comment?
Yeah.
Mike?
I'm all for merit-based pay versus automatic increases. And, I think there may be other managers out there doing equally as good of a job. And it's hard to determine that if you do not have performance objectives, written performance objectives, and, or you review, at the end of the pay period. And I think we really need to move to that if we're going to go down this path, because, you really do need measurables. I believe Mike did a great job. I don't know how much that business came in, how much he worked for, but I think there's other managers doing a great job too. And I really do believe we need to move to annual performance objectives so that we can, compare managers fairly and discuss those type of things so we have some measurables, and I think if you just let me continue a second.
You have the floor, Mike.
Yeah. So I think as long as, we agree at some point, we review these annual performance objectives and we say, hey, look at those are reasonable objectives. So it's just not one supervisor, discussing this with their manager, but you have a broader review of those, taking into consideration the entire township. Then I'm all for pay for performance. I just have to do it fairly, and you can't have one easy manager and their subordinates or whatever winning the lion's share of this kind of stuff. So I think it's a great direction to go.
Anyone else before I go back to Uda? David, you got anything to say? I agree with what Mike just said. I agree with Joe and his rationale for putting forward a lesser amount. I think the $4,500 figure is fair and equitable, and by the same token, I think the $7,000 was too much, given what I know and I'm aware of. So I would lend my support to Joe's change. Okay. Mr. Bletcher.
I'm going to disagree with the change from the 7,000 to 4,500. I did have an opportunity to talk to 2 commission members. I did have an opportunity to talk with Mike Duker to understand what he does. 4 years ago, I voted against a raise for Mike Duker. I look at what the airport manager has done in the following context. When the township became the controller owner of the property in 1969, when the Navy base closed, we limped along for a number of years. We had a swimming pool that was one of the largest in the world that in 4 years, had to be torn down because we could not maintain it. We had a base that limped along with little funding and little ability to draw long-term tenants. We wound up with some tenants there that have come and gone that were based in industry, and that is particularly Eagle Bobtail, and before them, the Clerk brothers. And the Clerk brothers did the aluminum fabricating. They were there for a number of years, but when they left, we did not have a broad base. The current manager for the airport has 124 tenants. He is a licensed airport manager, similar to the qualifications needed for Metropolitan Airport, Hartsfield Airport in Atlanta, JFK in New York, as well as Chicago. He is required to maintain FAA and Michigan Department of Transportation compliance. He's a certified stormwater operator and works with Eagle and under the auspices of Eagle, formerly known as the Michigan DNR. He is responsible for maintaining and making repairs to runways, buildings, grounds, fields, fences, and private property, as well as runway replacement. He has to take care of and organize and bid out removal for dead trees overhanging Frenchman's Creek, to dealing with beavers and deer on the airport. He does everything, beginning to end. He has managed to diversify and establish a broad tenant base where we now have business offices, warehouses, light manufacturing, an alpaca farm, flying lessons, and storage facilities. It is important to note that, as Mike said earlier and Joe said earlier, this is an enterprise fund. This is not a fund that is funded with any kind of millages. There is no township millage to support Airport Commerce Park or airport operations. They live or die by their tenants. If they have an increase in tenants, they have an increase in revenue. If they have tenants that fail or tenants that are behind, they have a decrease in revenue. The important thing is to remember is whatever they do stands alone without a millage. And while the bonus does not have an impact on township coffers, the actions of the township's airport manager do. Because for so many years, we had to use township funds to prop up and support the township's airport for 52 years when they did not have the tenants, they did not have the base, they did not have the diversification to pay for a number of things, building maintenance, runways, drives, all of that. What this is going to do is to give us the opportunity to expand slowly at first and then an acceleration, all of those things that have been deferred maintenance. Let's look at the Groseal Athletic Tennis Center for a moment. Mike managed to recruit a sustainable tenant, Groseal Athletics, with their substantial investment in remodeling, exercise equipment, tennis, and pickleball, and other recreational classes. 6 of us went down there for the ribbon cutting, the grand opening, the open house that they had, and I think all 6 of us were blown away by what's taken place on the inside. That was all done with private funds from an operator, lessor, that Mike recruited. He is now receiving a higher monthly rental than any time in the last 20 years for that property. That building, which was slated for by some to be torn down, has been repurposed into a recreational center that is a well-rounded athletic center for all residents on Groseal. Not just a few, but for all residents. There was no added cost to the township to provide these additional recreational services, which would include presumably a full-time employee. If the rec department were running it, they would need at least 1 person down there full-time and probably 1 + 1 part-timer in order to be open on weekends and begin to do the same thing that Bobby and Alan are doing. There's been no additional cost to the township for that. It preserves a 1-acre facility under roof, and it has been done with private enterprise with their funds and their expenses, and not a cent being paid by Groseal Township. The tenants' improvements total tens of thousands of dollars. They're contemplating replacing the lighting down there through a project grant with DTE. The lighting cost on that is going to cost them more than $50,000 out of their own pocket. This is a tenant that Mike Duker was able to find and that is sustainable for the long term. They have a 3-year contract. Year 1, the revenue for the township airport is going to be $50,000. It goes up $10,000 a year in year 2 and another $10,000 in year 3. Second project that Mike was involved with has been Building 63 indoor storage formerly. That has been subdivided with 1/2 of the building being divided into 10 units. Those 10 units are now producing, each of them, fully rented, fully occupied, and producing revenue. Mike engaged in a marketing plan that resulted in recruiting tenants to confirm the financial viability of that building and of that plan for 10 units. 10 of those units were pre-leased to minimize the fiscal risk with staggered lease periods. The airport manager oversaw the plans to develop with a request for proposals for contractors. He worked with the architect, the engineer, the contractor, and inspectors, and the inspections that were required in order to receive a certificate of occupancy. In short, he oversaw the construction of the build-out from the tear-out to the certificate of occupancy. If all 10 units are rented, that's going to result in $149,000 of additional revenue each year for the township. And perhaps the biggest project that Mike has been involved with, the airport manager, is Pirates Cove, taking a vacant field that was used largely for festival parking for an event that was a weekend a year and some soccer tournaments. And that is now going to be expanded by an additional 9.5 acres with 2021 groundbreaking construction expected here within the next 2 months. That involved environmental remediation of 2,000 feet of steam tunnels that had water infiltration, debris, a covered sidewalk that had to be removed, as well as the asbestos abatement on pipes and in the tunnels in compliance with federal and state requirements. Those regulations, Mike was required to get a request for proposal. He hired and oversaw the general contractor, the subcontractors, and the engineer, making sure that we were in compliance with state and federal regulations. As a result of that work, we now have a 30-year lease, which totals $2,800,000 or $92,333 a year. Mike has also been instrumental in obtaining, at least in the pipeline, a 4th commercial tenant with large-scale space needs. That is a lot of work. That is not something that an airport manager typically does. That is not something that is part of this airport's manager's job or any airport manager's job for the last 50 years in terms of success. A tennis center bringing in $50,000 this year, Building 63 bringing in $149,000, and Pirates Cove bringing in $93,000 for the next 30 years at an average of $292,000 year one total for the tennis center, Building 63, as well as Pirates Cove. This does not happen in a vacuum. Mike is without a dedicated administrative staff, except for assistance from finance department, which essentially costs him approximately $30,000 a year. He oversees one full-time employee for operations around the general airport. He has 4 to 5 summer employees that take care of all the summer projects, the lawn, and all of that kind of maintenance. He has 2 part-time employees that manage the self-run fixed base operators for fuel, tug operations, and etc. The money that Mike has sought and has been able to bring in is the highest organic revenue growth since 2006 and 2007. The tenant diversification lowers the risk to revenues as the airport moves from a light industry to more commercial and business operations. The important thing is that that money that he's bringing in can be used for maintenance, improvements, and expansions of businesses. This includes paving of access roads, roofs, parking lots, T-hangers, and all those others that have been deferred because of a lack of funds. In short, gentlemen, I disagree with the fact that that $7,000 hasn't been earned and should not be awarded. I think we all agree he's done a tremendous job. The results are incredible. And Mike had talked about what we do in private practice. I agree. If this was the private sector, Mike Duker would not be looking at a $7,000 raise. It would be much higher than that based upon his performance. If this was the operations of a small company in a small division, he has blown the ball out of the park. Maybe the tennis center is a triple. Maybe Building 63 is a home run. But I think if you put the tennis center, Building 63, as well as Pirates Cove together, that's a grand slam. And we're talking about a difference of $2,500 from an enterprise fund that has a year-end balance anticipated of $450,000. The man has done a tremendous job. He has gone above and beyond what would normally be expected by an airport manager with 3 projects that have long-term benefit for this township. I disagree with lowering it from $7,000. I would ask that we vote to keep it at $7,000.
Comment? Jameson?
I would just add, well, I have a question and then I have a comment. My first question is, what percentage of the yearly revenue is $7,000? Is that some portion of it, or is that just a number the airport commission felt was appropriate?
Ann, what would you say?
Jill,
their budget's $1 million. Right now, their budget's about $1 million he's bringing in.
So that's $1 million revenue for FY21 or year 20. Okay. And then the only other thing is, and it certainly sounds like Mike deserves a bonus of some kind. I'm concerned about other managers and township employees that probably, are deserving of something as well. Is it because he manages an enterprise that the board feels, or the commission feels it's appropriate to give him a monetary bonus then?
The commission at one of their meetings decided that they wanted to give him a bonus. I don't want to take away from your time, Jameson, but this is one of the problems I have with this overall thing is that right now, Grosse Ile Township has no structure to set these things. The
That's my concern as well.
The commission brought this up, said we want to give him a bonus, and they came up with a number. In our packet, if you look at it, it shows us the various contracts and gross revenues that are being gotten, but it doesn't really tell us why or how a bonus should be given. This is an overall. This is not for Mike. I'm making this statement overall for the township. I believe, and this bonus is that as proposed is over 10%, which is a big bonus. The bonus as amended is around 6.5%, which is still a very
10%
healthy,
of what?
Of his wages,
salary.
of his
Okay.
salary.
All right.
So, which is a very nice bonus anywhere. We need to put into play in the township a system where anybody that goes over and above what they're supposed to do we have to incentivize them to be able to get something should they go over and above what they're supposed to do. But we have to be able to see that they've gone over and above based on what's set out at the beginning and what they end up at the end. And for that reason, I would be in favor of what Joe is proposing. If the majority says, no, we're going to stick with this, with the original, I understand that too, because Mike did work, but there doesn't seem to be any what do I want to say? Any real program out there to set these things, and we can't be just picking them out of the air.
Well, and that's what my concern would be, and my feeling is that maybe, next month another commission could come up and be like, well, this guy did a really great job too. So maybe we need to table this and work rapidly on some kind of performance measure and bonus program and then return to it, because I'm certain Mike deserves something. I'm just not sure. We might even be coming up short. Like, I don't know, because we don't have any metrics.
And because of that, and because, Jameson, this is coming out of this year's budget. And this year's budget is about to end in about 9 days. Okay. So, no, this is something that we need to work on and have for the future. I do believe Mike is entitled to a bonus of some amount. And I, as I say myself, I fully understand what Joe said, and from the standpoint of not having anything in place to really come out with this or to talk about it at the beginning, you can get a bonus, if this, and this, which is what Mike was saying, factors are there. And if they achieve those, they get something, that's all well and good. But just to come up at the end and say, here's a number out of the air, I don't like to see that, and I would want that to change in the future. Uda, you've been very patient. Thank you.
I have not been nearly as patient as our township manager, Dale, who has been flailing his arms and wants to say something. And so I have some things I want to say, but I think
I'd like to hear from the board first, and then okay. I saw his flailing arms. Okay. You're not blanked out, Dale. I will get to you.
Okay. I know I'm not.
So my points are I tend to agree with Trustee Yeager that I think, given the fact that we as a board, you and others feel that we don't have a rubric in place for assessing bonuses, performance evaluations. Perhaps this motion was premature, and we hightail it and put a format together and table this and bring it back when we have a format. The
Uda?
second point I have is.
Uda, if I may just interrupt you for a minute, the problem with that is this bonus is for this year. This year is going to be over.
Gotcha.
That's why we can't do that, and that's why I'm good with going forward with something.
Okay.
Being an enterprise, doesn't their budget roll over anyway? Don't they carry their balance?
It's a different animal than our government, our general government budgets. What I'm concerned with too, going back to when Mike was talking, is that we have two different kinds of managers, two different kinds of departments. We have enterprise departments that are driven by money coming in. You know, they can bring in additional revenues and so forth, like the airport. I know we don't like to think of DPS that way, but if they need to, they can raise rates, etc. And we have the administrative overhead departments like the clerk's office, the treasurer's office, who don't bring in, you know, clerk's office has brought in some minor revenues through passports and stuff, but we have two different kinds of ways that we need to measure performance. You can't measure what a Brian Friel and an Ann Darsnick do by the same standard you would measure what a Derek Teal or a Mike Duker does. So if we, when we create this rubric, I think we have to keep that in mind so that we're fair to all the managers. Because I think Mr. Yeager was right. You don't want to put out or offend other managers who can't possibly live up to that example. There's no way the deputy clerk can raise rents and bring in more revenue. At the same time, because it's an enterprise fund, people in that type of business tend to be rewarded by when they bring in additional revenue. So I think we've got our work cut out for us to find a balance.
And you're absolutely right. And Mike, I'll get to you in a sec. You're absolutely right. Quite frankly, you go down the line of every one of those managers, and pretty much everyone is different. The police chief, the fire chief, the DPS is all different. Mike in the airport, different. So yes, what we have to do instead of this one size fits all is actually come up with maybe 8 or 10 sizes, so each individual each job is treated fairly, and we don't
maybe
have
that's
that
something
right.
We can task the commissions with, coming up with a rubric or a standard, if you will, for that particular department.
Well,
and
I think I think part of it is we have to look outside for expertise that has handled that already, rather than us trying to reinvent the wheel. Although we want to be part of that, that type of thing is done all the time. There are people out there that can do it. Mike, okay. Uda, I'm sorry. Are you through?
No, thank you. That was my main point.
Okay.
I would be in favor of tabling this if that's where it went. And at the same time, my concern is too, after listening to Carl, I would be willing to give Mr. Duker a $7,000 one-time bonus.
All right, thank you, Uda. Mike?
Yeah, I would just like to say that, Uta, I agree with you. All these departments are different, but they all have performance objectives, things that they try to achieve every year. And some go above and beyond in every department. I mean, look at Brian Friel. How many hours does that guy put in? Mr. Meeting, Brian Meeting Friel. I mean, there's things that he does, and sometimes could be measured that go above and beyond what would be, normal responsibilities. You have your CFO, that probably puts more hours than anybody. At least last 30 years of my life dealing with CFOs, those are the folks that get there early or stay really late, and they're always working. But there's measurables there as well. And things like, develop me a multi-year financial plan could be a stretch objective that would, maybe justify a bonus or something next year. But I think this is true of every single department. It could be your law department, quite frankly, if they're in-house attorneys, because in industry, you have this in every enterprise. You have salespeople that they're really easy to measure, a little bit harder for the accountants, okay, but you got to come up with some things like pass an audit and do all these other things, baseline stuff, then some stretch objectives, but it's doable. There's not one department in here that can't be measured with some core performance objectives and some stretch objectives.
The key, like you say, is to do it in mind to what that department
Absolutely.
does.
There's hard workers, smart workers, people that do extraordinary things in every aspect of this township government, as well as, it's just very similar to the private sector. It may not be as easy to figure out, but it's definitely doable. And so I think that, I think nobody would argue that Mike hasn't done a really good job, an excellent job, maybe outstanding, this year. And, you pay him the $4,500 because I'd want it if I were him, right? But by the end of this period or whatever, and then we build the structure in the coming year where we can measure everybody and offer them the same opportunity. That's where my head's at. I think it's fair. It has to include everyone.
Thanks, Mike.
Management level. Go ahead.
Thanks. Any other board member? All right. Oh, Dale, your arms aren't flailing.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. For the past several months and probably every day for the past 30 days, the supervisor has heard me advocating for cost of living, advocating for some, I guess we'll just say, COVID bonuses, things of that nature. And the management team understands that the budget's tight. And no, we don't like it, but I also don't think the management team has any spite for Mr. Duker at the airport. But what gets me warmed up and caused the arms to flail, and maybe it's because I did a bad job at communicating. We do have a system in place. And normally what happens at this meeting after we adopt the budget is there's a wage chart that comes before the township board. And that wage chart will have all the employees on it. All the management employees. It'll have their rate. There's a column for market adjustment. There's a column for bonus, and there's a column for cost of living. Okay. Well, none of that's happening this year because the budget is tight. So we're not coming forward with that format. But those are three ways the management group receive an increase. If the board believes and they budget a cost of living and everyone's doing their job, they get a cost of living. If an employee works through their position, compares it to other positions, other jobs, other communities, apples to apples, that process takes several months. It's reviewed at the budget time and is put onto the chart. And the third way is a bonus. So some of you said there's no matrix or no detailed measurement on what a bonus should be or what it shouldn't be. That is correct. Okay, I'll give you that. But this is the time to review a bonus. And the commission's making the recommendation, which I believe it was, if the broker brought these deals to them, they would have paid the broker $30,000. But that's one way to measure it, but that's a decision for the board. But I think from my office and management team, we support this. The process is, this is the time. What that actually is, okay, the commission made the recommendation based on that information, and I can't tell the board what to feel or what to like or not like. But I think that it's important to know that when the budget's being put together, when all the different departments have different challenges, some have a lot of available revenue, some barely get by. That is, I think, what some of you were saying earlier was kind of an inequity. It does make it difficult. But what I don't want to do and didn't want to do is what's happened in the past, unfortunately, where mid-year people will bring things forward out of sync, out of order, and without following that process. So I just wanted to at least say that there is a process. It may not be perfect. It may not have all the detailed matrix. I think that would be a near impossibility to try to have a board manage. But I do meet with the managers. We do set goals. And in this instance, the commission for several years has pushed to do just that. We need to come up with some revenue streams that will produce long-term revenue. And I think this is the financially the best shape the airport's ever been in. And I know that previous treasurer Ted Van Oss was very active and was instrumental in this. And the terms changed. So that's just where we are with this. But I would ask the board for your consideration in this instance to follow the commission's recommendation. And as far as all the other process goes, that can be something that through time and study.
That's the way it has to be. Thank you, Dale. Uda?
I have a recommendation. I know that Joe would like to amend his motion.
Yes.
I'm thinking what we could also do is vote on the original motion, and then if it goes down, reintroduce a second motion.
Okay.
Giving the board a chance to vote on both.
Okay. Is that agreeable with the board?
Sure.
I'm good.
Anybody against doing that? Pardon me, David?
No, I'm good.
Okay. It looks like everybody's good with that. So why don't we do that? So I will go ahead with the motion as proposed, based upon a recommendation of the Airport Commerce Park Commission to approve a one-time bonus for the airport manager in the amount of $7,000. And I will start with Carl Bletcher.
Aye.
Udo O'Connor.
Aye.
I vote nay. Mr. Naidu.
Nay.
Mr. Jarecki.
Nay.
Mr. Porcerelli.
Nay.
Mr. Yeager.
Nay.
Okay, that is defeated. Mr. Porcerelli, do you want to put forth a new action item?
I move based upon, I can't say based upon the recommendation. What should I just say based upon the board, Jim?
That's fine.
Okay. I move based upon the board to approve a one-time bonus for the airport manager in the amount of $4,500.
Support.
Any more discussion on it?
Well, you can't really, it's okay the way you worded it, but it isn't a recommendation of the board, just some board members. But
yeah.
So
okay, so let's strike recommendation.
Yeah, just say I move.
Yeah. Okay, Joe. Joe.
Yes, I move to approve a one-time bonus for airport manager Mike Duker in the amount of $4,500 paid immediately.
Support.
Any more discussion on it? Seeing none. Mr. Porcerelli moved to approve a one-time bonus for the airport manager in the amount of $4,500. Mr. Naidu.
Aye.
Mr. Jarecki.
Aye.
Mr. Bletcher,
Aye.
Ms. O'Connor,
Aye.
Mr. Yeager,
Aye.
Mr. Porcerelli,
Aye.
and Mr. Budney votes aye also. That motion passes.
Quick question.
Yes?
I'm watching
Yes, of course, Uda.
I'm watching Mr. Assorti. Is this procedure okay?
Is there?
Yes, you're fine. Yep, you did. You corrected him right on the motion.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. All right. That ends our action items, and we go into our reports. Clerk's report, Ms. O'Connor.
Okay, that's a relatively easy one tonight. Again, with no elections in the planning stages, they are just busy working on the things that we normally do. But as you know, our deputy clerk is also our communications administrator, working that under the township administration. And he is extremely busy with that, and it is not unnoticed by myself or by our public. So again, congratulations, Mr. Friel, again, on the hard work you do. But I want to say the Planning Commission has a meeting coming up on Monday, March 29. It's at 7 p.m. It will be available via Zoom, and it's going to be discussing the Pirates Cove project at the Airport Commerce Park. And I just have one quick question I want to ask Mr. Friel. How do members of the public get access to the Zoom meeting info? Do they go to the township website? Do they contact you?
Just as a general meeting for Zoom?
Yes.
They're all on the front. They're on the front page of the website.
Okay, so it's a planning commission meeting. The public is more than welcome, and just letting you know, it is on Monday, March 29 at 7 p.m. It's a very exciting project, but there are a lot of planning details to still go through. And of course, the Planning Commission always enjoys public input. And that's the clerk's report for tonight.
Thank you, Ms. O'Connor. Mr. Nadeau.
Thank you. From the Treasurer's Office, for the month of February, the township had a total of $22,200,000 invested in various accounts. And these accounts generated a total of, hold your breath, $838.56 in investment interest at an average interest rate of 0.05%. And that's the Treasurer's report. I do want to say that the next DPS Commission meeting is April 13th. The next Recreation Commission meeting is April 1st. And I personally want to thank the Finance Office, Ann and her staff, for the work they did on the budget this year, and all of the department heads that I know worked hard to bring their budgets in the best that they could, given the circumstances of where we're at. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, David. Moving on to the trustees' reports. Mr. Porcerelli.
I just have one comment on the airport issues. I'm on the airport liaison to the Airport Commission. In the last 18 months or so, I've been working with the Army Corps of Engineers to try and get all of the fields there, the soccer field, the baseball field, and the Little League football fields there, tested for lead contamination. Finally, after I did go to the Zoom, or was on the Zoom meeting with them last fall, I requested that can they come up with the information. It was very difficult for me to obtain, and again, in the last 18 months. And I think it's very important that those fields be tested. They did come up with their conclusion, the Army Corps of Engineers, and those fields were not remediated ever. There was some work done to them in the past, but nothing was done due to the lead that was found in the one area of we'll call it the north end of Grove Road there. That area was remediated, but they didn't go further out, which are the fields. And in that area right there, the gentleman, I just spoke to him 2 weeks ago, and they promised me that the soccer fields, the baseball fields, and the football fields will be tested for lead. And if there's an issue, they'll get on that, because I told them that, after COVID, obviously, things are going to start hopping down there again. And he promised me that they would get to it, and they apologized. But the answer was they did not test them, and it wasn't remediated to any standard that they had. They had no record of it. So I just want the people to know, if your kids are playing out there, I just think it was very important that we get these tested, and it's finally going to happen. He said as soon as the weather breaks, which it is now, they're going to get back with me. I've been in contact with Miss Reese from Louisville, Kentucky, who's the project manager for Grove Seals remediation project. And I just want the people to know that it's finally moving. We'll get it tested, and if there's an issue, hopefully there's nothing there. The best thing is that only that one small area of the north side of Grove Road near the it's actually near the Little League football field in the parking lot there, was redone, and that was it. But they still don't have any record of going further out. So I just wanted the people to know that, and I'll be in contact with them. And as soon as I know an answer, I will let you know at the township board level. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. So you're going to follow up on that.
Absolutely.
Anything else? Is that it, Joe?
Oh, yes, sir. I'm sorry.
Okay. Mr. Yeager.
The only significant report I have for this meeting is that there's a zoning board of appeals meeting tomorrow, which I'll be present at. So if you're interested in watching zoning board of appeals meetings, drop in on Zoom. Nothing.
Jameson, you're going to get your real test. Not too many ZBAs have 4 appeals, so you're gonna have your work cut out for you tomorrow.
I understand it's going to be a significant lift. So
yeah. Thanks, Jameson. Carl. Carl, you sound wonderful.
2 reports. That's it. Your luck has run out, Jim. 2 reports. Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee. We are doing an inventory of the 2 bridges, one on Grove Road and one over the canal at Ferry and Thoroughfare Canal, to determine decking issues. And we're looking at dump the junk, but that's going to depend upon some of the COVID advisories that Mr. Assorti is going to be giving us as we proceed through the reopening. Second commission is the Greenways Open Space. We have the ongoing project with the chipping on the Ferry Gate Trail, but it is a rough trail and you can use it, but please just be very safe. We did have the resignation of Dan Jaster from the commission, and we accepted applications from the public, and we received one. That is Bill Stevenson. And Mr. Stevenson is going to be recommended to the Township Board to fill the vacancy by Dan Jaster, who did a terrific job for us, but has taken on new duties with the West River boating and I guess it's just a boating committee club there. So Bill Stevenson is an adjoining property owner to one of the open space tracks that we have, and Bill is probably familiar to a lot of people on Grove Seal, having taught in the schools for a number of years, and he is going to be a terrific addition. He has a lot of good ideas and things that we can do. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Carl. Mike?
Yeah, just a few items. Looking at some of the more important numbers, comparing February of 21 to February of 2020, we had total incoming calls of 747 in 21 versus 990 in 20, down 25%. Assault and batteries remained the same. Rescues were 32 in February of 21 versus 52. So they were down 38%. 9/11 calls were down. It was 80 in 21 95 in 2020, down 16%. Vehicle traffic citations, 32. They're actually up versus 22, up 46%. Verbal warnings, 99, but compared to 133 last year, down 26%. But of the more serious nature, arrests were 13 in 21 versus 6 in 2020, up 117%. And finally, deer crashes were 1 for both months year over year, so they stayed the same. We also have a recognition item for tonight that we'd like to share with the Township. Brian Loftus forwarded over a letter today from Larry McKillop, Principal Operations Inspector for the FAA, and former colleague of Brian from his time spent at Selfridge Air Base. In the letter, the Principal Operation Inspector McKillop recognized Detective Eric Vasquez for outstanding work that he did over the course of a year in the investigation of the fatal aircraft accident that occurred at our Grosseto Airport last summer. To give you the details, I'm going to hand it over to Acting Chief Brent Harden. Brent?
Good evening, Board. I just wanted to highlight our officers responded to an aircraft crash, which is highly unusual for us. We don't respond to many of them. On July 11th of 2020, about 4:48 in the afternoon, some of our officers gratefully were assigned to the Marine detail, and they were able to complement our road patrol. So we had multiple officers that responded to that scene immediately. Supervisor Loftus, with his personal connections with flight crews and with investigators, he was able to use his personal connections to get a speedy response from the FAA investigators. The pilot was operating a 2-seat experimental, what they call an ultralight fixed wing aircraft. He should have been licensed, and he should have had the aircraft registered as an aircraft. Both of those things were not done. I just want to say that there were multiple officers: Officer Kevin Counts, Detective Pete Darsnick, Officer Alan Benson, Officer Dino Seketeris, and specifically was highlighted Detective Vasquez. They controlled and secured the scene superbly. Today, with the email that we received from FAA investigator Larry McKillop, from my understanding, he's retired, and he wanted to just express to all of the Grosseto team of what an excellent job they did in the response and the follow-through from beginning to end. He did specifically highlight Detective Vasquez in physically assisting at the scene. He helped with off-site analysis with the wreckage, provided records, and maintained contact throughout the investigation. So according to Mr. McKillop, Detective Vasquez stood out on this investigation. So I found it fitting for all members that were involved in this case to be recognized and to say job well done, and thank you from all of us. We greatly appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you to all of them. Another example of the fine police department that we have.
Thank you.
That's it for me.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Mr. Assorti, anything from our township attorney?
Mr. Supervisor and members of the board, the 33rd District Court is continuing their normal hearings through Zoom. Again, we're not anticipating any date in the near future that that's going to stop. Again, it's been working pretty well. There hasn't been too many issues on our end, at the local end. I'm not sure at some of the state level, they might be having a few problems, but it's working out pretty well. The 33rd District Court also advised our police department and me that they were going to go to a new system for updating and taking in information, as well as importing our local information as far as charges are concerned. I'm working with the police department on making sure that they have all the appropriate information for that, and we will get that to them shortly. I'm also continuing to work. I know I'm sure some of the departments are a little frustrated, but probably as I am as well, and I'm sure everyone in the township is, the use of our township facilities and what we can and cannot do because of the, anyone who reads the current orders, I think will agree with me. If you have a bar or restaurant, or if you have a sports venue, it's real easy to read. If you have things that kind of encompass all of those things at a small community, these orders aren't so easy to read. So we're doing the best we can for that. We've got information together. Hopefully we can get that out to first ensure that everyone at the township is safe, including the employees as well as the residents. But at the same time, open up the facilities at the township as much as possible that the law will let us at this time. Finally, I did talk to the deputy clerk today, and we're both kind of miffed. We probably should have started a pool on that as well. But the PA 254 that the governor signed on December 30th of last year put into place, required these types of meetings to be virtual through March 31st of 2021. After April 1st, 2021, they can only be done if they can only be held virtually if there's a statewide or local state of emergency, or for medical conditions. So if for instance, if any of you felt uncomfortable, had been exposed, you would all be able to attend electronically. That's why, but at that time, that is when the requirement kicks in that you have to announce where you're attending from. And that's why I've asked you to kind of get in the habit of doing that now to get used with that. So as per usual, and I'll leave my political comments aside, as per usual, I'm sure we're going to get something at the 11th hour that tells us what to do. But I'll be in contact with the clerk's office and the manager to figure out what it is and how we're going to have the next meeting going forward.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Tom. Yes, yeah, there's a lot going on out there. My guess is much like yours, Tom. I think last minute we'll probably have an extension of the Zoom meetings. I can't imagine it going a different way, but why it always has to be at the last minute, I have no idea. So thanks, Tom. Dale, even though your arms aren't flailing, we're going to let you talk.
Well, maybe you're going to want to mute me.
Oh, no.
I'd just like to remind the board and the community, this is our last meeting of this fiscal year. And come April 1, it's a new year, it's a new budget. And by way of tradition, we used to have annual meetings, which are not required, but we kind of did pomp and circumstance in some of the appointments and the renewal things. We haven't done that for quite some time, but I've always liked to kind of give a year-end review. If you bear with me, I've just like hit some highlights of 2021 fiscal year. I'm sad and glad to say that this will be my last report that I'm giving of this nature. So I'm looking forward to retirement in the future. Obviously, this past year has been COVID. Perhaps the most or the most referred to term could be "you're on mute." That certainly seems to be the theme. But with COVID, with the risks, with the shutdowns, I'm just extremely pleased and proud of the staff and how the entire team continued services, whether we were rotating staff, whether we were working from home. And we did it all with the goal in mind of service to the residents. And yes, it's inconvenience, drop boxes and making appointments, but we're getting the job done. And I know you've heard that from me in the past meetings, but I'm very pleased at that. Some of the projects, last year, they elevated the piers at Water's Edge Marina because of the high water. The voters renewed the wrecked fire road maintenance millages. And we had some new Commerce Park tenants, which we discussed earlier. This is no particular order, but hey, we welcomed a new board. Some of you were here, some of you weren't, but as a unit, you are a new board. We ended up renewing lawn care, restaurant, excavator contracts. We had the, I guess I'd like to say thank you to and compliments to retirement of Police Chief Mark Warnick, Fire Chief Duncan Murdoch, and Deputy Clerk Annette Wordsmith, which all took place last year. And as you know, now we're currently going through the police chief selection process. We hired Kevin Langley as our fire marshal, who was a fireman. We promoted Rusty Boudry to the fire chief from fire marshal, and we hired Deputy Clerk Sue Hennessy in Annette Wordsmith vacancy. So welcome and thank all of those individuals for participating. And the DPS has been busy doing planning their projects, scheduling their projects, bidding their projects. And just last meeting, we ended up approving some water main work, some wastewater treatment plant operations, some pump house upgrades, and pump station upgrades. These things don't just happen overnight. It takes time. And last year, even though it was COVID, it ended up being a planning year. And as you know, we approved the framework and makings of a food truck ordinance, which is in the process of being finalized right now. And the big ones, the Hickory Island Causeway Bridge and the Girlsville Parkway Bridge. That was a lot of time in the making, a lot of work with Wayne County. Obviously, the Parkway Bridge ended up taking a detour, and that was no pun intended there. But Supervisor Budney will update you on where we are with that. But the East River Causeway Bridge was taken care of. I believe they were slightly behind schedule, but it was a big project and a big undertaking. And yes, it was an inconvenience to the residents, but it's done. So with all that in mind, I mean, that's just kind of a thumbnail sketch of last year, and not including the PPEs and the hand gels and the disinfectants and all those things. But it was a pretty crappy year in general, but from an organizational standpoint, I'm very pleased with the team. So I just wanted to share that with the board and the community. And our next meeting is April 12th. Thank you, Mr. Supervisor.
Thank you, Mr. Township Manager. And next year, we will be missing. Thanks, Dale. Supervisor's report. Yeah, bridge update. The best part is they are on schedule. The contractor continues to work on the design. They're over 60% designed. And you're probably wondering, well, what are they designing? Well, different piers will be handled differently. They will not necessarily do each pier only one way. So it depends on what the pier is, the deterioration of the pier and what it needs as to what it's going to get. So that is a good thing. The biggest thing for any project is permitting, and that continues to be done to get all the permits so that they can start. And the start dates are still going to be in April as they had hoped. So we're still on schedule. Next month on April 14th, there will be an informational update meeting with Wayne County, the contractor, the township board for the township residents. It'll be a Zoom meeting starting at 6 o'clock. When, obviously as we get closer to that date, that information will go out. It'll be on our website. For residents who are interested in submitting questions to the county to be addressed at the meeting, you're being asked to provide those questions in advance to Bridge Questions, all one word, at grozeal.com. That information, I believe, is also on our website. Get your questions in so that we can get them to the county so that they can answer those questions. Deadline for submittal of questions is April 7th at 3:00 p.m. And as I said, the meeting attendance, the Zoom meeting information will be put out closer to the time of the meeting. Derek, did I miss anything on that?
Nope, I think that was accurate.
Okay, thank you. As some of you may or may not know, and Judy does know, Wayne County is coming to Grozeal to give COVID shots. We are in the process of setting that up with them. We do not have a date or time yet. However, we will need or can use volunteers to give shots. So if you're certified to give shots and you'd like to volunteer when this comes forward, Mr. Riem?
Have them email me. That's why I'm waving at you.
Oh, okay. I thought you wanted to, you were flailing again. I thought you wanted to say something. Please email Mr. Riem, and your email address is?
Dale R at grozeal.com.
Dale R at grozeal.com. So send your if you're available to volunteer, please send that to Dale. That's one thing we will be putting together also. Numerous communities throughout Wayne County have been done. So this is not something new that they've been doing. They just go through the order, and it's our turn now. So we're setting that up. But this is how it's done. We need volunteers. More volunteers, the quicker it will move, obviously. So we have that. And Judy mentioned Judy Mega, resident, mentioned at the beginning of the meeting about Grozeal receiving some money. I guess there's been newspaper articles talking about $1 million. Actually, I'm hearing that it's going to be a little more than that. The difference with this payment now is I have been told that this payment will come directly from the federal government to the township. It's not going through the state, through the county, to the township. It's coming directly to us. So when they get everything cleared up and they start issuing the checks, we should get a check for some money. Being conservative as I am, I'm not about to spend the money till I actually get it and see exactly what we're getting. The flip side of that is, like anything else, there are restrictions on what we can spend the money on. It's not just free money. So we have to wait and see how they define those restrictions. I was at a meeting last week, and something as simple as it appears you can spend the money, it said, on infrastructure for roads, water, and sewers, which sounds pretty good. We certainly could spend some money on roads. Nobody would have a problem with that. But when the question was asked, the people said, what that infrastructure on roads, water, and sewers really is hasn't been defined yet. So it's not going to be as simple as we can just take the money and go do whatever we want. We have to wait until we know. So it's, to my knowledge, previous money that was coming down to localities, number one, townships weren't included. So we previously had no money indicated just for Grozeal. It came down much like the road money through the state to the county, and then the county could dole that out. so the township itself was not named in that. In this case, now from this the Recovery Act, the townships are named and are getting an amount, and it's coming directly from the federal government. So that's better. We should be getting something. And with that, that's my report.
Mr.
Stay
Supervisor.
tuned. As I said, the bridge is still a go. All the dates start in April, end at the end of September, beginning of October is still in place. So we have our fingers crossed that will absolutely happen. And with that, I'm going to open up to public comment. Oh, wait a minute. Before I do that, Dale, did you have something?
Yeah, Mr. Supervisor, thank you. Just a extra note on the volunteers for the COVID shot. Like you had stated, we don't know when that date is, but if we have a list of volunteers, that will help us in the distribution of the shots. And if you can't, when we get a final date, if you can't make it, that's okay too. But the more people we have interested on the list, the more people we can get there that day we have to. So if you're qualified and you're interested, just please shoot me an email. So that would be greatly appreciated. And then I missed one bullet point on my report. There were 3 elections last year.
Thank you, Miss. Maybe you should.
Elections.
Maybe you should retire. Thanks, Dale. Thank you, Dale. Okay, with that, let's move to public comment.
All right, public comment on agenda items. It looks like
on agenda items, please state your name and where you live.
We only have 2 members of the public in the meeting, so either Judy or Greg, do you have anything to comment on?
I have just a quick comment. Judy Mega on Lafayette Drive. I don't know if this is the appropriate time or not. I know the budget was approved tonight, and I'm not familiar with the exact workings of how the police budget works versus the township budget. But the June 29th letter from the Groseville Police Department said that they were that a study of the efficacy of body cams was underway, and that the recommendations as to their cost effectiveness would be submitted to the township board for possible incorporation into a new 5-year plan and upcoming police budgets. So it said our proposal to the commission review will be submitted at the appropriate budgetary time, seeking their opinions. I don't know if anything ever happened on that, or if this would be the time that would be, is that something totally separate?
Totally separate. Judy, I'll have somebody get back to you to let you know what's going on.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, do we have any other public comments?
Nobody?
I think we're good to move forward.
Not many out there. With that, I would entertain a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
Has to be roll call.
I know. I got to need a support first, Brian. Brian, got to have a support.
Support.
Thank you. All right. So we have a motion to go into closed session.
Was that Mike? Was that Mike that supported?
Oh, who supported?
I was on mute.
Oh, yeah,
it was me, Dave.
Dave. Okay.
Dave supported it. Okay, Dave, I'll let you start.
Aye.
Carl?
Aye.
Uda?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
Jameson?
Aye.
And I vote aye also. So at this time, Brian will be taking the rest of the people out. Joe, you will be out also.
Correct.
And I would like, did Ann leave already?
Looks like it.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm here.
let's-
Do you want me in or not?
I would like you in.
Okay.
All right.
She's just one of the many Bryans.
Yeah, yes, yeah, exactly.
I tried to get out of here. Dang it.
All right, Brian, I will let you clear us out.